Hey there. Welcome back to our English pod. I'm so glad you're here today because we're going to talk about something every English learner faces at some point. And honestly, it's something that held me back for years. Have you ever tried to speak English, but your brain starts working like a slow translator? You hear a question in English, you think in your language, then try to find the English words. And by the time you're ready to speak, the moment has passed. I've been there. I used to feel frustrated, slow, and stuck. I thought maybe I just wasn't good enough, or maybe my brain just couldn't handle it. But then, I discovered a better way. I stopped trying to translate, and I started to think in English. Not perfectly, not instantly, but day by day I trained my brain to stop relying on my native language and start using English like a real tool for communication. That's exactly what we're diving into today. In this episode, I'll share my personal journey, the struggles, the small wins, the breakthroughs, and most importantly, the exact techniques and daily habits that helped me stop translating and start thinking directly in English. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, embarrassed, or stuck in your head when trying to speak English, you are not alone. And I promise, by the end of this episode, you'll walk away with real tools, simple, powerful, and proven strategies to help you move from slow thinking to confident speaking. So grab a cup of tea, put in your headphones, and let's begin this journey together, because fluency starts in the mind. Ready? Let's go. Let me tell you about one of the most frustrating moments I've ever had while learning English. I was sitting in a cozy little cafe with a group of international friends. Everyone was relaxed, laughing, and talking fluently in English, throwing around jokes, sharing weekend plans, teasing each other. You know those moments where the energy just flows? Yeah, it was one of those. Then someone turned to me and said, "Hey, so what do you usually do on Sundays?" Simple question, right? But my brain didn't hear that in English. Instead, my brain went into translation mode. Step 1. Translate their question into my native language. Step 2. Think of my answer in my native language. Step 3. Try, desperately, to translate that answer into English, without sounding completely awkward. And while I was doing all that, while my brain was sprinting through a mental maze, the conversation kept moving. They were already talking about someone's dog, laughing about a party, and once again, I was left behind. I smiled and nodded, but deep down, I felt invisible. Have you ever felt that? Like you're trapped behind a glass wall, watching people speak the language you've worked so hard to learn, and yet, somehow, it still doesn't feel yours? That was me. Over and over again. I used to believe fluency meant knowing all the grammar rules, memorizing the perfect vocabulary, filling in all the blanks in my workbook. I was excellent at tests, but in real life, I froze. I hesitated. I translated. And every time I did, I lost connection with people, with the moment, with myself. That's what translating in your head does. It turns a simple conversation into a complicated puzzle, and it makes you feel slow, even when you're smart, even when you've studied for years. But here's the truth, and it took me a long time to accept this. Fluency isn't about being perfect. It's not about translating every word. Fluency is about flow, thinking and speaking in English without stopping to convert every sentence. And one day, one regular, unremarkable day, something changed. I heard a phrase, a simple one, in a movie I'd watched a dozen times. But that time, I didn't translate it. I just understood it. And that moment was the spark, the beginning of a journey that would shift the way I learned, practiced, and lived in English. In the next chapter, I'll tell you what I started doing differently, step by step. Because if you're still stuck in that cycle of translation, I want you to know there is a way out. And once you learn to think in English, truly think, everything begins to change. Let's be honest. Translating in your head feels safe, right? It feels like you're being careful, like you're checking your words before you speak. But the truth is, it's slowing you down, more than you realize. Let me explain. Every language has its own rhythm, its own structure, its own way of thinking. So when you translate directly, word by word, it's like trying to wear shoes that don't fit. Sure, you might be able to walk, but it's uncomfortable, and eventually, you trip. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're in a restaurant. The server comes up and says, "What can I get you?" Now, if you're translating, your brain starts doing this. Okay, what can I get you? Translate each word into your native language. Then, how do I say I'll have the pasta in English? Then, wait, is it want or would like? Should I say I'll have? Is that too direct? What's the grammar rule? And while you're doing all that, the server is just standing there, waiting. That hesitation, that pressure, that awkward silence. It doesn't come from your English level. It comes from your brain trying to run two languages at the same time. It's like trying to drive with one foot on the gas and the other on the brake. Here's another example. You're at work. A colleague asks you a question during a meeting. Everyone's watching. You know the answer, but suddenly, you freeze. Not because you don't know English, but because you're trying to translate the answer in your head, organize the sentence, and make it perfect before you speak. By the time you're ready, the moment's already passed. And here's the hardest part. When this happens again and again, you start to lose confidence. You start to think, maybe I'm just not good at speaking. But that's not true. You're not broken. You're not slow. You're just using a learning method that doesn't work anymore. See, translating is a stage, a stepping stone. Every learner goes through it. But if you stay there for too long, it becomes a cage. A cage that keeps you from fluency. But here's the good news. You can break out of that cage. And in the next chapter, I'm going to share the exact moment when that happened for me and what I did next. So stay with me, because we're just getting started. You know what changed everything for me? It wasn't a grammar rule. It wasn't a vocabulary list. It was a shift in mindset. For the longest time, I treated English like a school subject, like math or history. Something to study, something to get right, something with rules and grades and pressure. And every time I spoke, I treated it like a test. Is this the right verb? Did I pronounce that correctly? Wait, is it in the bus or on the bus? And let me tell you, thinking like that, it kept me stuck. Until one day, I asked myself a really honest question. What if I stopped treating English like something I study and started treating it like something I use? Because that's what native speakers do, right? They don't think, I'm going to conjugate this verb correctly now. They just speak. They just live the language. So I tried something new. Instead of memorizing 10 new words a day, I picked one phrase and used it all day long. Instead of studying a grammar rule for an hour, I watched a vlog and listened to how people use that grammar in real life. Casually, naturally, without overthinking. And slowly, something started to shift. I stopped looking at English like a code I had to crack, and I started to feel it like a tool I could carry. That's the moment I stopped asking, "How do I translate this sentence?" and started asking, "How would an English speaker say this?" That mindset, that decision, made every podcast, every video, every real-life conversation feel like a playground instead of a classroom. And guess what? I started learning faster, because I wasn't focused on perfection anymore. I was focused on connection. I didn't need to be flawless. I just needed to be understood. So let me ask you, how are you treating English right now? As something to master or something to live? Because once you flip that switch, once you start living in English, thinking in English, dreaming in English, you'll stop translating and start communicating. And in the next chapter, I'll show you the exact moment when that change showed up in real life, and how you can feel it too. Let me tell you something that changed everything for me. I stopped trying to speak first. I stopped forcing myself to form perfect sentences before I'd even heard how real people actually speak. Instead, I started listening. Every day. Sometimes for just 15 minutes. Sometimes for an hour. But I listened, without subtitles, without stopping every 10 seconds, without the pressure to understand everything. I let the words wash over me, like background music. And honestly, it felt strange at first. I didn't understand everything, and that's okay. Because here's the truth. Babies don't learn by studying grammar books. They learn by hearing their language every single day, without subtitles, without explanations. That's how I started treating English, not as a puzzle to figure out, but as a sound to absorb. So I chose easy, friendly content, vlogs, slow English podcasts, real conversations between friends, shows made for learners. I didn't pause every few seconds to look up a word. I focused on the feeling, the rhythm, the tone. And something amazing happened. After a while, I started recognizing phrases without thinking. "Oh," she said, "I'm gonna head out. I've heard that before." Suddenly, English didn't feel like code anymore. It felt like life. So here's my tip for you. Start with beginner-friendly or slow-spoken English. Pick content you actually enjoy. A cooking video, a travel vlog, a podcast like this one. Listen every day, even while cleaning, walking, or making breakfast. And most importantly, don't try to understand every word. Your brain is smarter than you think. It's learning while you listen, even when you don't realize it. Let the language come in before you push it out. Because fluency doesn't start with speaking. It starts with input. And in the next chapter, we'll explore how that input naturally turned into confident, real English thinking. This next habit? It might sound simple, even a little silly at first, but it's one of the most powerful things I ever did to start thinking in English. I started narrating my day, out loud, or quietly in my head. And I'm not talking about complicated grammar or long sentences. Just the basics. I'm brushing my teeth. I'm making coffee. I'm checking my phone. I need to charge it. That's it. Simple actions. Simple English. But what made it powerful was that I did it every single day. The moment I woke up, English was the first language I used, even if I was only talking to myself. And what happened? My brain got faster. The words came more naturally. I stopped reaching for translations because I had already practiced the exact phrases I needed. No teacher, no pressure, just me, building fluency in the small, quiet moments of everyday life. So I want you to try something right after this episode. Don't wait. Look around your room and say, in English, I see a chair. It's brown. I'm sitting at my desk. My phone is next to my hand. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just do it. The more you make English part of your day, not a separate subject, the more fluent you'll feel. These small moments, they build big confidence. One of the biggest breakthroughs on my journey was this. I stopped translating individual words, especially vocabulary that didn't have a perfect match in my native language, like the word excited. At first, I kept trying to find the right translation in my head, but the meaning always felt a little off, not quite right. In my native language, excited felt more like nervous or anxious. So whenever someone said, I'm excited to see you, I'd think, wait, why are they nervous? That's when I realized something powerful. Some English words don't translate. They have to be felt. So instead of searching for a matching word, I started using images, feelings, and actions. When I heard excited, I pictured someone smiling, jumping up and down, laughing. That image, that became the meaning of the word for me. So now, I want you to try it. Pick a word, maybe tired, happy, or confused. Don't think of the translation. Instead, close your eyes and picture it. What does confused look like? Maybe a person scratching their head or reading something twice. That's how children learn. And it works, even for adults. The more you train your brain to think in images and feelings instead of translations, the faster you'll understand and respond naturally in English. So the next time you learn a new word, don't ask, what's the translation? Ask, what does this look like in real life? That shift will change the way you learn, and more importantly, the way you use English. Here's something I wish I had learned earlier. Don't memorize words. Memorize phrases. Whole, real-life chunks of English, just like native speakers use. Let me explain. When I first started learning, I'd study vocabulary lists like go, went, gone, get, got, gotten, big, small, happy, sad. But when I had to speak, my brain froze. I knew the words, but I didn't know how to use them in real sentences. That's when I started learning full phrases, like, how's it going? Can I get a coffee, please? That's awesome. I'm not sure, let me check. These chunks, short, natural phrases, gave me instant access to real English, and it actually saved me once. I was in a coffee shop. The barista asked, what can I get started for you? Now, I didn't fully understand every word in that sentence, but because I had practiced the phrase, can I get, I automatically replied, can I get a latte with oat milk, please? No pause. No panic. It just came out. Naturally. That's the power of learning whole expressions. You don't have to build every sentence from scratch. You just pull out a phrase from your English toolbox and use it right away. So here's my challenge to you. Start building your phrase bank. Don't just learn go. Learn. I gotta go. I'm good to go. Let's go. That's how native speakers talk, and that's how you can speak fluently too. Remember, words are tools, but phrases are shortcuts to real conversation, and once you start using them, speaking becomes faster, easier, and so much more natural. There was a moment, a very specific moment, when I spoke English before I felt ready. I still remember it clearly. I was at a friend's birthday dinner. Everyone around me was chatting in English. I had practiced so much vocabulary, studied grammar rules, and even memorized conversation patterns. But when someone turned to me and asked, "So, what do you do?" my heart started racing. I didn't feel ready. I hadn't rehearsed an answer. I didn't know if my sentence would come out right. But I spoke. I said, I work with computers, like websites. I help people build, online stuff. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't polished, but they understood me, and something clicked inside me. Speaking, even when I wasn't fully prepared, helped me more than weeks of silent grammar exercises. See, when you speak before you're ready, your brain has no time to overthink, no time to translate, no time to edit every little word. You're in the moment. You're expressing an idea, and that is the beginning of real fluency. It's okay if it's messy. It's okay if you make mistakes. That's not failure. That's growth. The more I did this, answering questions out loud, talking to myself while cooking, replying to messages with voice notes instead of texts, the more confident I became. My advice? Don't wait until you're ready. You'll be waiting forever. Speak now, even if it's just one sentence, even if it's just to yourself, even if it's messy, because fluency doesn't come from silence, it comes from use. So after this episode, I want you to say something out loud, in English. Doesn't matter what it is. Describe your room. Talk about your day. Ask yourself a question and answer it. Just speak, and watch how that tiny moment begins to change everything. Let me tell you something simple that changed everything for me. Voice notes. Yep, just me, my phone, and a 1-minute recording. At first, it felt a little weird. I won't lie. Talking to myself, into a mic, no one listening, but I did it anyway. I'd press record and say something like, "Okay, today I went to the store. I bought some vegetables and I felt good because I spoke to the cashier in English." Then I'd listen back, and what I heard surprised me. Sure, there were mistakes, but I could actually understand myself. I sounded more fluent than I thought, and every time I did it, I got a little better. I started using voice notes to summarize short YouTube videos I watched in English, or to reflect on my day, like a spoken diary. No grammar checks, no pressure, just me speaking. And that's the magic. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need 1 minute, 1 minute a day, to use your voice, to get used to your own English, to own your progress. So here's your challenge. Today, after this episode, open the voice recorder on your phone. Talk about anything: what you ate, what you learned, how you feel. Then listen to it tomorrow. You'll notice your progress. You'll hear your confidence growing. It's simple, it's powerful, and it's how real fluency begins. One voice note at a time. Here's something I wish someone had told me earlier. Fluency is not about perfect grammar. It's about flow. It's about connection. It's about expressing your thoughts without freezing up. But for the longest time, I didn't believe that. I kept thinking, I'll start speaking more once I learn the present perfect perfectly. I'll join that English group after I master conditionals. Guess what? That day never came. Because grammar never ends. And you don't need perfect grammar to speak fluently. What you need is clarity. If someone understands what you mean, you're already communicating. I used to say things like, "He go to the store yesterday." Yeah, the grammar's wrong. But did people understand me? Yes. Did I improve over time? Absolutely. So if you're holding back, waiting to speak until you sound like a textbook, please stop. Speak now. Make mistakes. Correct them later. Because fluency grows from real practice. not perfection. Let your English flow, not freeze. Let me ask you something. Have you ever heard someone speak English? And even if you didn't understand every word, you could feel what they meant? That's because English has a rhythm, a tone, a flow. And the truth is, if you want to think in English, you also have to feel it. See, when I first started learning, I focused only on the words, vocabulary, grammar, sentence structure. But something was missing. Native speakers weren't just using words. They were using energy. Their voice would go up when they were excited, down when they were serious, and pause just at the right time. And that's when I started listening differently. Instead of only hearing what they said, I listened for how they said it. I'd watch interviews, vlogs, podcasts, and I'd pay attention to the pauses, the rhythm, the natural stress of words. Like when someone says, "Really? I didn't know that." You hear the surprise. The tone carries more meaning than the sentence itself. So I started mimicking that. Not just repeating sentences, but playing with the emotion. I'd match the speaker's rhythm, their energy, their pause. And guess what? My English started sounding way more natural. So here's your challenge. Next time you listen to a native speaker, on YouTube, in a movie, or on this podcast, focus on the music of their voice. Repeat it out loud. Mimic their tone. Because thinking in English isn't just about knowing what to say. It's about feeling how to say it. Let me take you back to a moment I'll never forget. I was standing in line at a bakery, a small place I'd never been to before. The lady behind the counter looked up, smiled, and said, "Hey there, what can I get you?" And without thinking, I smiled right back and said, "Yeah, I'll take a cinnamon roll and a cappuccino, please." Just like that. No pause, no panic, no translating in my head. I didn't even realize what I'd done until I stepped outside, coffee in hand. That's when it hit me. I had spoken in English, fluently, naturally, and I didn't even think about the words. They just came. It felt like I had stepped into a new version of myself, the version I'd always hoped to be, confident, calm, clear. And I'll be honest, I almost cried. Not because I ordered a coffee, but because I saw how far I had come. That tiny moment, that everyday conversation, showed me that the hours of listening, repeating, practicing, thinking in English, they weren't just practice anymore. They had become who I was. If you've ever wondered, will I ever feel fluent? Yes, you will. And when that moment comes, when English flows out of you without fear, it'll feel like magic. But it's not magic. It's you. It's your effort. It's your growth. And that's something no one can ever take away from you. So, now that you've heard my journey, maybe you're thinking, okay, but where do I start? Let me make this simple for you. You don't need a teacher. You don't need a fancy course. You just need a small decision to start today. Here's a 3-step action plan that changed everything for me, and it can do the same for you. Step 1. Start narrating your actions. Right now. As soon as this episode ends. Say out loud, "I'm standing up. I'm going to make tea. I'm checking my phone." It might feel weird at first, I know, but it's powerful. This is how you train your brain to think in English instead of translating. Step 2. Use voice notes or apps. Open your phone. Record yourself speaking for just 1 minute. Talk about your day, your goals, what you ate for lunch, anything. Then listen back. It's not about judging yourself. It's about hearing your rhythm, your mistakes, your improvement. This habit builds awareness and confidence faster than you think. Step 3. Shadow real English conversations. Pick a 2-minute YouTube clip, podcast, or dialogue. Listen, pause, repeat. Try to copy the speaker's tone, rhythm, and emotion, not just their words. This is how you sound more natural, more fluent, more alive in English. And here's the truth. You don't need to be perfect at any of this. You just need to do it. Every day. A little bit. Think of it like brushing your teeth. Small, daily habits that keep your English sharp. So, don't wait until Monday. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start today. Right now. Because fluency doesn't happen someday. It starts the moment you choose to live in English. Let's take a deep breath together. Because you've made it to the end of this episode. And that means something. It means you're serious. It means you're committed. And most of all, it means you've already started. Thinking in English isn't some magical superpower. It's not something you're born with. It's something you build. One moment at a time. One word at a time. One thought at a time. And the truth is, by simply listening to this episode, by staying with me through each chapter, you've already taken the first step. You're training your brain, right now, to hear English, feel English, and live in English. So here's what I want you to remember. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't need a huge vocabulary. What you do need is the courage to speak before you feel ready, the willingness to sound awkward, and keep going anyway, and the belief that fluency isn't a goal in the future. It's a habit you practice today. So let's keep going together. Subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. Leave a comment or review, and tell me, what was your favorite tip from today? Was it shadowing? Narrating your actions? Voice notes? Let me know. And finally, here's your challenge. Speak out loud today, just once, 1 minute, one sentence. Do it while you're walking, cooking, brushing your teeth. Doesn't matter how small it is, because that's where fluency begins. In the small, messy, beautiful steps. Let's grow your English. Let's build your confidence. And let's think in English. Together. Talk soon, my friend. Keep going. You're doing great.